The hedonic treadmill, the psychology of why nothing is ever enough. The pursuit of happiness is a most ridiculous phrase. If you pursue happiness, you'll never find it. Quick question. How much time do you spend thinking about whether you're happy enough? If you're like most people, you probably spend a disturbing amount of mental energy monitoring your happiness levels, comparing your life satisfaction to other people's apparent happiness, and trying to engineer circumstances that you think will make you feel more fulfilled. Here's what's going to ruin your day. Psychologists have discovered that this direct pursuit of happiness is actually making you less happy, not happier. The more you focus on being happy, the more elusive happiness becomes. It's called the hedonic treadmill, and it explains why you can achieve everything you thought you wanted: the job, the relationship, the house, the lifestyle, and still feel empty, restless, and somehow unsatisfied. Right now, you probably think happiness works like this. Identify what would make you happy, work toward getting those things, achieve them, and then experience lasting satisfaction. Problem solved, happiness achieved. But researchers have discovered something that will disturb your entire approach to life. Happiness doesn't work that way at all. Instead, it works like a treadmill that speeds up every time you think you're making progress. You get the promotion you wanted, and instead of feeling permanently more satisfied, you feel good for a few weeks, and then return to your baseline level of happiness while now wanting an even bigger promotion. You buy the car you thought would make you happy, enjoy it briefly, then start wanting a better car. You achieve a fitness goal and feel great for a moment, then immediately set a more ambitious fitness goal. You reach a financial milestone and feel successful briefly, then start worrying about the next financial milestone. Every achievement gives you a temporary boost in satisfaction, but then your expectations adjust upward, and you end up needing even more achievement to feel the same level of satisfaction. You're literally running on a treadmill where the speed increases every time you think you're catching up. This isn't because you're greedy or ungrateful. It's because human psychology is designed to adapt to positive circumstances quickly, returning you to baseline happiness while simultaneously raising your standards for what you need to feel happy. Think about your life 5 years ago. You probably had problems, goals, and sources of dissatisfaction that felt really important at the time. Now think about your current circumstances compared to what you wanted 5 years ago. If you're honest, you've probably achieved many of those goals and solved many of those problems. Your life is objectively better in multiple ways. But do you feel proportionally happier? Or do you have new problems, new goals, and new sources of dissatisfaction that feel just as urgent as the old ones? That's the hedonic treadmill in action. You've been running toward happiness for years, making real progress in objective terms, but never actually arriving at the lasting satisfaction you thought all that progress would create. The more you chase happiness directly, the more it recedes like a mirage that stays the same distance away no matter how fast you run toward it. Part 2. The adaptation that's stealing your joy. Here's something that'll explain every disappointing achievement in your life. Your brain is designed to adapt to positive changes so quickly that the things you thought would make you permanently happier barely register as improvements after a few months. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation, your mind's tendency to return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite positive or negative events. It's like psychological air conditioning that automatically adjusts your satisfaction thermostat back to its default setting, regardless of external circumstances. Think about the last major positive change in your life. New job, new relationship, new living situation, new purchase, new achievement. How excited were you when it first happened? How much did you expect it to improve your daily satisfaction? Now think about how you actually feel about that change today. If it happened more than a few months ago, it probably feels normal, expected, and unremarkable. The excitement has faded, and what once felt like a major upgrade now feels like your new baseline. This isn't because the change wasn't actually good or because you're ungrateful. It's because your brain treats positive changes like injuries in reverse. It quickly adapts to them until they become your new normal and stop providing the satisfaction boost they initially created. The new apartment that felt amazing for the first month now just feels like home. The relationship that felt transformative for the first few months now has ordinary moments, conflicts, and routine interactions. The salary increase that felt life-changing for a few weeks now just feels like what you deserve. Meanwhile, your expectations have adjusted upward to match your new circumstances. You no longer compare your current situation to your old situation. You compare it to even better situations you haven't achieved yet. This creates a psychological trap where every improvement becomes the new baseline from which you measure whether you're happy enough, rather than a source of ongoing satisfaction. You end up in a constant state of reaching for the next level of achievement while being unable to enjoy the level you've already reached. The cruelest part of hedonic adaptation is that it's asymmetrical. You adapt quickly to positive changes, but you also adapt relatively quickly to negative changes, which means that avoiding the bad things doesn't create lasting happiness either. You think you'll be much happier if you eliminate your current problems, but once you solve them, new problems will emerge that feel just as problematic as the old ones. Your brain will adapt to the absence of the old problems and start focusing on whatever difficulties remain. This is why people who win the lottery aren't significantly happier than people who don't. Why people who achieve major life goals often feel empty afterward, and why solving your current problems doesn't create the lasting relief you expect. Your brain is constantly recalibrating what feels normal, which means that nothing, positive or negative, provides permanent changes to your happiness levels. You're stuck on a treadmill where running faster gets you nowhere because the destination keeps moving away at the same speed you're approaching it. Understanding hedonic adaptation doesn't eliminate it, but it does explain why the pursuit of happiness through achievement and circumstance management is fundamentally flawed as a life strategy. Part 3. The comparison trap that's poisoning your satisfaction. Here's where the happiness trap gets really vicious. Your brain doesn't evaluate your life circumstances in absolute terms. It evaluates them relative to what other people have, what you used to have, and what you think you should have by now. This means your happiness has almost nothing to do with your actual circumstances and everything to do with how those circumstances compare to various reference points that are constantly shifting. You could have the same life, the same achievements, and the same circumstances, but feel completely different levels of satisfaction depending on who you're comparing yourself to and what standards you're using for comparison. Think about how you feel about your income. If you make $50,000 per year and most of your friends make $30,000, you probably feel pretty good about your financial situation. But if you make $50,000 and most of your friends make $80,000, you probably feel financially stressed and inadequate. The objective circumstances are identical, but your subjective experience is completely different based on social comparison. You're not evaluating your actual purchasing power or quality of life. You're evaluating your relative position in your social hierarchy. Social media has turned this comparison trap into a 24/7 psychological torture device. Every time you scroll through Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, you're comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to other people's highlight reels. You see friends' vacation photos and feel bad about not traveling enough. You see colleagues' career announcements and feel bad about your professional progress. You see acquaintances' relationship milestones and feel bad about your romantic situation. Each comparison provides reference points that make your current circumstances feel inadequate, regardless of how objectively good those circumstances might be. You end up feeling poor compared to rich people, unsuccessful compared to successful people, and lonely compared to social people, even when you're doing fine by any reasonable standard. But the comparison trap goes deeper than social media. You also compare your current self to your past self and your future self in ways that prevent satisfaction with your present circumstances. You compare your current achievements to what you accomplished when you were younger and had more energy, or to what you hope to accomplish in the future when you have more resources. Either comparison makes your current situation feel insufficient. You compare your current relationship to the honeymoon phase of past relationships, or to an idealized future relationship that doesn't have any of the normal challenges of actual partnerships. Either comparison makes your current relationship feel disappointing. The cruelest aspect of the comparison trap is that you can never win. There will always be someone who has more than you, who achieved more than you, or who seems happier than you. And there will always be gaps between your current reality and your past peaks or future aspirations. This means that as long as you're using comparison as the basis for evaluating your life satisfaction, you're guaranteed to feel inadequate regardless of your actual circumstances. The people who seem happiest aren't necessarily the people with the best circumstances. They're the people who have learned to evaluate their lives without constant reference to how they measure up to others or to idealized versions of themselves. Part 4. The hedonic treadmill that never stops speeding up. Here's the most disturbing part about the pursuit of happiness. Every time you achieve something you thought would make you happy, the treadmill doesn't just reset, it speeds up, requiring you to achieve even more to feel the same level of satisfaction. This is why successful people often seem more stressed and less satisfied than you'd expect. They're not ungrateful or impossible to please. They're trapped on a treadmill that's moving faster than it did when they had less to lose. Think about your material possessions. When you were younger, you probably thought having certain things would make you feel successful and satisfied. Nice clothes, a good car, the latest technology, a comfortable living space. If you've acquired some of those things, did they provide lasting satisfaction? Or did your standards adjust upward so that you now want better clothes, a nicer car, newer technology, and a more impressive living space? The car that felt luxurious when you first bought it now feels normal. The apartment that felt spacious and well-appointed now feels cramped and outdated. The clothes that felt stylish and expensive now feel basic and insufficient. You're not just back where you started in terms of satisfaction, you're actually worse off, because now you need more expensive things to feel the same level of satisfaction you used to get from less expensive things. This escalation happens in every area of life. The vacation that felt amazing last year now sets the minimum standard for future vacations. The restaurant that felt special becomes the baseline for what counts as a good dining experience. The achievement that felt significant becomes just another item on your resume. Career advancement works the same way. Each promotion feels great temporarily, but then becomes your new normal while creating expectations for even higher levels of achievement. The salary increase that felt transformative quickly becomes insufficient as your lifestyle inflates to match your income. You end up needing exponentially more achievement, recognition, and success to feel the same level of satisfaction you used to get from smaller accomplishments. But achieving exponentially more becomes exponentially more difficult, creating a gap between what you need to feel satisfied and what you can realistically achieve. Meanwhile, the stakes keep getting higher. When you had less to lose, failure was less catastrophic. When you have more to lose, the anxiety about maintaining your position becomes part of your daily experience. The executive who makes 10 times more money than they did as an entry-level employee doesn't feel 10 times happier. They feel 10 times more pressure to maintain their position and continue advancing. The lifestyle inflation that accompanied their career progression means they can't go backward without feeling like they're failing. This is why retirement often creates identity crises, why successful people often feel trapped in their success, and why achieving your goals often feels more like a burden than a liberation. The hedonic treadmill doesn't just prevent you from reaching lasting satisfaction, it actively makes satisfaction harder to achieve the more you chase it. Every step forward makes the next step more necessary and more difficult. You end up running faster and faster while getting farther and farther away from the simple satisfaction you could have experienced if you'd never gotten on the treadmill in the first place. Part 5. The pleasure paradox that's making everything boring. Here's something that explains why nothing feels as good as it used to. The more you pursue pleasure and positive experiences, the more tolerance you build up to them, requiring increasingly intense stimulation to feel the same level of satisfaction. This is the pleasure paradox. The counterintuitive reality that seeking pleasure directly makes you less capable of experiencing pleasure, just like how building tolerance to a drug requires higher doses to achieve the same effect. Think about your favorite foods from childhood. If you eat them regularly now, do they still create the same joy and satisfaction they used to? Or do they feel normal, pleasant but unremarkable, requiring special circumstances or elevated versions to feel exciting? The ice cream that felt magical when you were 8 now tastes good but doesn't create the same emotional response. You need better ice cream, more elaborate flavors, or special contexts to recreate that feeling of delight. This happens with every pleasure you pursue regularly. The music you love becomes background noise. The activities you enjoy become routine. The experiences that used to thrill you become ordinary expectations. Your brain adapts to whatever level of stimulation you provide it, making that level feel normal and requiring higher levels to create the same subjective experience of pleasure or excitement. This is why people escalate their pleasure-seeking behaviors over time. The drinks that used to make social events fun now barely have an effect. The entertainment that used to captivate you now feels boring. The purchases that used to create excitement now feel like ordinary consumer transactions. You end up in an arms race with your own nervous system, constantly needing more intense, more frequent, or more novel stimulation to feel the same level of satisfaction that simpler pleasures used to provide. Meanwhile, simple pleasures that you haven't built tolerance to, a conversation with a friend you haven't seen in years, a walk in nature, a moment of genuine laughter, can still create disproportionate satisfaction precisely because you haven't been pursuing them systematically. The pleasure paradox explains why people who seem to have everything often report feeling empty or bored. They've built tolerance to so many forms of pleasure that very few experiences can still create genuine satisfaction for them. It also explains why people from simpler backgrounds often seem more capable of enjoying basic pleasures. They haven't built as much tolerance to stimulation, so they can still get genuine satisfaction from experiences that would feel insufficient to someone with more sophisticated tastes and higher expectations. The pursuit of pleasure doesn't just fail to create lasting happiness, it actively reduces your capacity for happiness by requiring ever-increasing stimulation to achieve the same emotional states. This doesn't mean you should avoid all pleasure or live an austere life. It means that using pleasure-seeking as your primary strategy for life satisfaction is self-defeating, because it creates tolerance that makes satisfaction progressively more difficult to achieve. The people who seem most capable of enjoyment aren't the ones who pursue pleasure most aggressively. They're the ones who can still find satisfaction in simple experiences because they haven't built tolerance to basic forms of contentment. Part 6. The social media happiness machine that's programming your misery. Here's where the modern pursuit of happiness becomes truly toxic. Social media has created a 24/7 happiness comparison and optimization system that makes it literally impossible to be satisfied with normal human experiences. Every platform is designed to make you feel like everyone else is happier than you, while simultaneously providing tools for you to perform happiness for others who are comparing their inner experience to your external performance. Instagram shows you curated highlights of other people's lives while you're experiencing the boring, difficult, or mundane aspects of your own life. LinkedIn shows you other people's professional achievements while you're struggling with work challenges or career uncertainty. Facebook shows you other people's relationship milestones and family celebrations while you're dealing with relationship conflicts or personal disappointments. TikTok shows you people who seem effortlessly confident and entertaining while you're feeling awkward and insecure. Every scroll provides dozens of reference points that make your normal human experience feel inadequate compared to other people's performed happiness. You end up thinking that constant joy, perpetual achievement, and effortless success are normal human experiences rather than carefully curated social media performances. Meanwhile, you're performing your own version of happiness for your own audience, posting the highlights while hiding the struggles, creating content that makes other people feel inadequate about their normal human experiences. This creates a collective delusion where everyone is performing happiness for everyone else, while privately feeling inadequate compared to everyone else's performance. Nobody is experiencing the level of satisfaction they're seeing in their feeds, but everyone thinks everyone else is. The algorithm makes this worse by showing you content that generates strong emotional reactions, which usually means content that makes you feel envious, inadequate, or motivated to achieve more. The platform profits from your dissatisfaction because dissatisfied people engage more and buy more things. You're not just comparing yourself to real people anymore. You're comparing yourself to algorithmically optimized content designed to make you feel like you need to improve your life by buying products, following influencers, or consuming more content. The happiness you see in your feeds isn't even real happiness. It's performed happiness designed to generate engagement and monetize your attention, but your brain experiences it as evidence that other people are happier than you, making your actual life feel insufficient by comparison. This social media happiness machine has created a generation of people who think happiness means constant positive emotions, perpetual achievement, and effortless success. Expectations that are literally impossible to meet in real life. You end up chasing a version of happiness that exists only in social media performances, while being unable to appreciate the normal fluctuations of mood, the gradual nature of real achievement, and the ordinary satisfaction available in unperformed daily life. The solution isn't necessarily to eliminate social media entirely, but to recognize that the happiness you see in your feeds is a performance designed to make you dissatisfied with your reality, so you'll keep engaging with content and buying solutions to problems you didn't know you had. Real happiness doesn't look like social media happiness. It's quieter, more ordinary, and less photogenic than the performed version, which is exactly why it's more sustainable and more authentic than the happiness you're chasing through your screen. Part 7. The counterintuitive path to actual satisfaction. After all this analysis of happiness traps, hedonic treadmills, and social media delusions, you're probably wondering, so how do I actually become happier? What's the alternative to pursuing happiness directly? The research reveals something counterintuitive. The most satisfied people aren't the ones who pursue happiness most aggressively. They're the ones who pursue meaning, connection, and contribution while treating happiness as a pleasant side effect rather than a primary goal. First, shift from pursuing happiness to pursuing engagement. Instead of asking, "What will make me happy?" ask, "What will fully engage my attention and capabilities?" Engagement creates satisfaction more reliably than pleasure-seeking because it doesn't create tolerance or require escalation. Find activities that challenge you appropriately, use your skills, and provide clear feedback about your progress. This might be work that matches your abilities, hobbies that develop your talents, or relationships that require genuine effort and attention. Second, focus on creating value for others rather than extracting pleasure for yourself. Contribution creates lasting satisfaction because it connects you to purposes larger than your own comfort and creates positive feedback loops with other people. This doesn't mean self-sacrifice or martyrdom. It means finding ways to use your capabilities in service of things you care about beyond your own immediate gratification. Third, practice gratitude for what you have rather than focusing on what you lack. Gratitude is essentially the opposite of the comparison trap. It's a conscious choice to evaluate your circumstances in terms of what's present rather than what's missing. This isn't toxic positivity or denial of real problems. It's a practice of noticing and appreciating aspects of your current life that you've adapted to and stopped seeing clearly. Fourth, cultivate relationships based on genuine connection rather than social performance. The people who report highest life satisfaction have deep relationships where they can be authentic rather than impressive. This requires vulnerability, consistency, and the willingness to prioritize connection over image management. Quality relationships provide ongoing satisfaction because they're based on who you actually are rather than who you're performing to be. Fifth, set goals based on your authentic values rather than social expectations or external validation. Goals that align with your genuine interests and values create satisfaction through the process of pursuing them, not just through achieving them. Goals that are primarily about impressing others or meeting external standards create the hedonic treadmill effect because they're based on comparison rather than authentic interest. Finally, accept that satisfaction comes from integration and balance rather than optimization and maximization. The happiest people aren't the ones who maximize any single aspect of life. They're the ones who maintain reasonable satisfaction across multiple domains without sacrificing everything for any single pursuit. This means accepting good enough in some areas so you can have bandwidth for what matters most to you, rather than trying to optimize everything simultaneously. The path to satisfaction isn't through achieving more, having more, or experiencing more pleasure. It's through engaging more fully with what you have, contributing more meaningfully to things you care about, and connecting more authentically with people who matter to you. Happiness becomes possible when you stop making it your primary goal and start making it a natural consequence of living according to your authentic values and genuine interests. If this exploration of the happiness trap has made you question your own pursuit of satisfaction, that questioning is the beginning of actual satisfaction. You can't find a better path until you recognize that your current path isn't leading where you want to go. Next week, we're exploring Camus's philosophy of absurdism and why you're not depressed. You're just seeing reality clearly for the first time. Subscribe now, because understanding the absurd might be the key to finding meaning in a meaningless world. Your journey toward authentic satisfaction is just beginning, and understanding the happiness trap is your first step toward a life of genuine engagement rather than endless pursuit.